thank you for coming to honor all our veterans today in honor of Veterans Day. First off, I want to introduce myself for all those who don't know me. I'm Debbie Hendrick, and I've been here at the DCRI for like 15 years almost, and I work in ClinOps on the ECHO program. But for those who do know me, and there's a lot of them out here, that even though I've been here 15 years, they don't know that I'm a 20-year veteran from the U.S. Navy. And so that was my first life, my first career, and it will always be a love of mine in my heart. And so with that, I feel honored and privileged to be able to introduce our guest speaker today and read a little bio on him. And thank you, Gina, for thinking of me of that. Okay, I'm sorry, I need my eyes. Okay, so I retired in March of '99. I started in like July 1979, and you can kind of see my bio up here on the board, so I don't have to go through it all. But I was at multiple places. Those are my assigned permanent duty stations that I was at, but I had a bunch of what they called TAD locations. I would go out and install a bunch of complex communication systems on board ships and different duty stations. I worked every aspect of security you could think of. I was a cryptologic technician, if anyone knows what cryptology is. I can't say a whole lot about that, or I'd have to kill you all. But no. But I worked a lot of security. I set up the secure communication systems. I did all the physical security and accreditations. I processed all the security clearances and anything that had to do with security. That was my number one job, other than supporting the mission of the military. So let's see. Okay, so a day doesn't go by that I don't miss the things about my career. There's things I do not miss. And there's a lot that I do miss. The camaraderie amongst all my shipmates, the amazing things, the folks that I was blessed with over the 20 years, and some of those friendships I still maintain today and still talk to them today, and they're treasured friendships. It was a great experience with lots of travel around the world, and in the end, I took away so much away from that experience. I learned what true dedication to your country is, true patriotism, and it just instilled a great sense of dedication in me, and I can truly say that I'm proud to be an American and to have served our great country. No matter what struggles that our country is enduring today, I honestly believe in my heart that they'll plunge through it, because that's what we in the military do. We're loyal to our country, we fight to the end, we never give up, and there's always one common oath in mind in the back of our heads, and that's to defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and bear true faith and allegiance. That's our number one. So in that, I say, God bless America. And now with that said, I'd like to take a moment to recognize all the branches of the service, not just the Navy. There's the Army, the Air Force, the Marine Corps, the National Guard, the Reserves, and the Coast Guard. We're all one big team. We all work together to achieve the same common goal, the protection and security of our great nation. We could not be the fine military structure that we are today without each and every one of us working together as a unified team. All of our veterans have made huge sacrifices. Some have made the ultimate sacrifice. All our veterans should be commended for their service. They've demonstrated tremendous strength and courage for every day that they served, and carried over many great values and work ethics from the military into their work environments today. So for all of those who have given the ultimate sacrifice, please take a moment this Veterans Day to remember them and their families. And for all of you in here today that are military veterans from any service, I ask that you would please stand to be recognized with a hand of applause. And we thank you all for your service. And now with that, I'm going to take a few minutes before I introduce our guest speaker, Mr. James R. Alston. He's retired Army, and I'm going to give you a little bio update on him. Okay, James is the founder and executive director of the Triangle Veterans Wellness Outreach Center, Incorporated, located here in Durham. He's been there since January of 2011. He's a recent selectee board member of the Workforce Development Board in Durham, a lifetime member of the Disabled American Veterans, a service officer in the Junior Vice Commander, Chapter 21, a member of the Veterans of Foreign Wars, Service Officer Post 2740 at the VFW, a member of the American Legion, and a Vietnam Desert Storm era veteran. He also a 1966 Hillside High School graduate. In 1967, shortly after graduation, he was drafted into the Army. His first overseas assignment was in the Federal Republic of Vietnam from 1968 to 1969. He arrived in Vietnam during the worst time of the war, the Vietnamese New Year TET offensive in 1968. He served for more than 25 years and retired as a senior non-commissioned officer. During his military duty, he toured over 13 different countries, worked and studied at Midwestern State University in Wichita Falls, Texas. He was the first African American to work in the Military Science Department in 1976. Mr. Alston served in many top-level senior non-commissioned officers' positions and was the senior non-commissioned officer in charge of the Berlin Brigade Material Management Center during the fall of the Berlin Wall. Also during this time, he served as the acting command sergeant major of the 6th Support Battalion Berlin Brigade, whose mission was to support the reunification of East and West Berlin by providing housing, food, clothing, transportation, and other necessities. This assignment was the highest of his military career. His honors and awards include the Army Service Ribbon, the National Defense Service Medal with a Bronze Service Star, Overseas Service Ribbon, he received 4. He received 8 Good Army Conduct Medals, 3 Army Commendation Medals with the 3 oak leaf clusters, Meritorious Service Medal with 1 oak leaf cluster. He's Non-Commissioned Officer Professional Development Ribbon, 3 awards for this, Combat Infantry Badge, Vietnam Service Medal with 3 Bronze Service Stars, a Vietnam Campaign Medal with Valor, Unit Award, Vietnam Crosses of Gallantry with Palm Leaf, and an Army Occupational Medal, Berlin Brigade. Pretty awesome career there. Mr. Alston retired in 1993 and founded his own transportation company named A&J Express, which was very successful for 16 years until his retirement in 2010. Since that time, he has dedicated his life in helping veterans and their families receive their VA benefits. He plans to do this great work for the rest of his life. And now I'd like to take a moment to introduce our guest speaker, Mr. James Alston.
Thank you so much. First of all, Debbie, you really made my job real easy. All the things I was going to say about you covered it all for me, and I think I'm the person you was talking about. Yeah, but I'm really happy to be here at the Duke Research Institute. I am familiar with a few faces, and I also like to thank my wife for coming out, because without her I wouldn't be here today. And also I have a few members from my Triangle Veteran Wellness Outreach Board. Will you please stand? And I think we have a few more coming. So my biggest thing is I talked with Gina a couple of times, and she was saying, well, Mr. Alston, I want you to go giving a speech that, you got to study 3 or 4 days for. And Gina, I didn't study 3 or 4 days. I should have, but I didn't. But I'm really happy to be here today, and I won't take up much of your time. My purpose today is to thank and recognize the veterans that have gone before and the ones that are presently serving. And I have a title of what I'm saying today is the faithful few. A lot of people don't realize that only 1% of Americans ever served in the armed forces of the United States. So I'm very proud to be one of those faithful few. And do we have any other faithful few people in the room? I'm sure we do, because a lot of them stand before. We also want to thank you as well for being a part of the Faithful Few. The Faithful Few is people from all different parts of the country. They come from different faiths, different races, different backgrounds. But one thing that I always remember about my military career is how when we all joined the military service, or whether we was drafted or not, we had camaraderie. The camaraderie was that we looked out for each other. It didn't matter where you come from or what your background was. We all was one for all and all for one. And what we also call esprit de corps. We all had the same purpose and mission, and that was to follow the orders that was given to us by either our commanders or the President of the United States as well. So I'm so happy, again, as I said before, and I'm not going to take up a lot of your time because, Debbie, you really did a great job for me, and I appreciate that. But my purpose of being here today is to honor and remember those that have served before. Veterans Day, as most of us know, started right after World War I. At the end of World War I was the war that was supposedly to be the end of all wars. But we know that was not true because we have had many wars since followed World War I. We want to go back a little bit, even to Valley Forge. That's when the faithful few, even in the shivery cold winters of Valley Forge, we had faithful few that fought and died there as well. And as we went on into the World War I, we had the doughboys from fighting in France in the muddy trenches in France. And as we move right along, we go to World War II. Everybody in here ever heard of D-Day, where the men's fought? That was the turning point of World War II when the Americans forced the Germans to fight two fronts. And by being able, they wasn't able to maintain and fight two fronts at the same time. And that was the beginning of the end of World War II. And then we moved right on along to the Korean War. And in the Korean War, there was a lot of big battles, but one of the most famous ones was Chosin Reservoir. It was where a lot of Americans gave their life on that particular campaign. And then we moved right on along to where I came from, and that is Vietnam. And I'm a very proud Vietnam veteran. And a little bit later, I will talk a little bit about my experience as a Vietnam soldier. But then we move right on to the day. We have men and women fighting all over the country in Afghanistan, in the mountains and in the deserts of Iraq, still serving our country today. And do everyone know that we now have a volunteer army? And the men and women that are signing up to go and put their lives on the line are probably some of the most precious and some of the most dedicated soldiers that you ever want to find or see. I was in Fort Bragg on yesterday. I get a tendency that sometimes I just have to get away from these civilians and go to Fort Bragg with all my friends and soldiers. I was down there yesterday, and I was in the clothing sales store trying to get my little pretty hat straightened out, and I was all fumbling around. The little young soldier came, "Oh, let me help you do that." So even though I've been out of the military for a long time, it was so, made me feel so good, this young soldier just stopped what he was doing and fixed my hat and took good care of me and thanked me for my service as well. So I have had a great, great life, but probably the most enjoyable part of my life is when I spent those 25 years in the Army. I went all over the world. I learned and met all kinds of people, and I spent a lot of time in Europe. I spent time in Latin America, you name it, I was there. But I'm going to talk a little bit today, and not going to take up much of your time. I'm going to try to chronologize my career a little bit in about 10 minutes, I hope. Is that okay, Gina? Oh, okay. All right. So when I was in high school, I don't know why I had in my mind, I said, one day you're going to war. And I'm saying, Lord, please don't let me, when I get old enough to go into the military, don't have a war. As soon as I got old enough to be drafted in the United States Army, there was a war called Vietnam, a place that I really never had heard of before. And all of a sudden, I was drafted. I went to Fort Bragg, and I did my basic training not far from home. So that wasn't too bad. I didn't have to travel too far to go to basic training. So after I got the basic training, I thought I was a little smarter than everyone else. And I said, look, I talked to the drill sergeant. I say, look, if I take another year in the Army, will that help me for maybe not going to Vietnam? I wasn't wanting to raise my hand to go to Vietnam, like most of us. But he said, well, yeah, you take another year, you might get a good chance. You're still probably going to Vietnam, but you might get one of them jobs, in one of them real area jobs. So I took another year in the military, and I said, wow, okay. That's going to be a good shot for me. After basic training was over, they gave us the orders. They would say, James R. Alston. My name always got called first because my name started with an A. So they said, James Alston. So I looked at it. I could read a little bit. And it said, James R. Alston, Fort Lewis, Washington, INF. I say, INF? What do that mean? I'm trying to figure out what IMF meant. So I asked my friends, man, I don't know what IMF is for. You took another year. It should be something good. So the drill sergeant came up. What is your problem? I said, I want to know what this INF is. He said, that's infantry. Infantry? I took another year just to sign up for infantry. He said, what you think all this running around here, climbing up poles and all this stuff is for? You'll make a good infantry soldier. I said, I don't know about that. He said, well, I'll tell you what, we'll find out in a couple of days, because a couple of days later, I was on an airplane on my way to Fort Lewis, Washington. So after we got to Fort Lewis, Washington, we did ART infantry training. I came home for a couple of days, and then they said, you got to go back to Fort Lewis. I said, why I got to go back up there? Well, they started 2 infantry battalions. The fighting in Vietnam was really getting real terrible, so they needed some replacement. So what we did, they formed 2 infantry battalions. I was in 1 infantry battalion, and then some other people that I took basic training in was in another infantry battalion. So we did all this training for Vietnam, and we said, why in the world we're training for Vietnam in the snow? It rains and snows in Seattle like crazy sometimes. Not a lot of snow, but a lot of rain. So it was always real cold rain. So we up here training to go to Vietnam, but we're fighting in winter weather. So on our way to Vietnam, we were supposed to be going to the 4th Infantry Division. People might know Chu Lai, but it was in the northern part of Vietnam. So as we was about 15 hours into the flight, then the commander came over the phone and said, I need to get everyone's attention. And we said, what is that? Well, you guys' orders has just been changed. Or they changed the orders in the flight. Say instead of going to the 9th, I'm going up to the 4th Infantry Division, you're now going to the 9th Infantry Division. And the reason why you're going is they just wiped out a whole infantry battalion, and you guys are their replacement. You did not hear not one more word for 15 hours. That was the quietest airplane flight I ever had in my life. So then we landed in Vietnam, and we kids off the block, we don't really understand exactly what's going on. So they give us a little 2 or 3 days to get our equipment all together and get the equipment and uniforms for Vietnam. So after about maybe a week and a half, they said, okay, it's time to move out. Move out from where? We was back in the big division base camp. They had swimming pools, believe it or not, yeah, swimming pools, movie theaters. They had bars for people to drink back in them days. And so I said, wow, I thought we was gonna stay here the rest of the time. To my surprise, no, sir. So we went out and we got a convoy. We was on our way, very first day. We went out to we was gonna set up a base camp, and base camps are woods, there's nothing there. You get there and you make it something. So that's what we was on our way to. So we got ambushed on the way to our first base camp. And we had been trained to jump off the trucks. So we still thinking like, wow, we back in Fort Lewis. We jump off the trucks. Some people get on the right side of the road, some on the left. And so, wow. And then all of a sudden, the shooting started. We used to that noise as well. So when we was in Fort Lewis, we used to play war games. And for some reason or another, we had like paint guns. And if you get paint on this color paint, whatever color paint, one mean you was wounded, one mean you was dead. I always got killed. I always had the paint that killed. I was always dead. And they said, well, you out of the war now. You go over there and sit down and get you some rest because you dead. So I said, oh my God, am I going to be the first one to die when I was in Vietnam? So we lost a couple of soldiers on that attack. And so we moved on to our fire base, and we began to build our fire bases. So I didn't know that we was going to be engineers and builders as well. We had to design our base camps. So Sergeant Major was saying, look, you guys need to be filling up these sandbags and making you some foxholes and some bunkers. And we said, well, it's hot. He said, well, I don't care how hot it is. You need to get these sandbags filled. So we didn't listen to him. This man, we don't know what he's talking about. We're going to be all right. Everything's been pretty good except for the day before. So that night we came on a heavy, heavy attack. Very few foxholes, very few sandbags. And so we lost some more people that night. But the next day, you never seen people filling, so many people filling sandbags. Next Sergeant Major say, oh, that's enough sandbags. No, Sergeant Major, that's not enough sandbags. So we really caught on real quickly. As my tour in Vietnam began to move along, then we had what they call the second phase of Tet. Tet Offensive is when it's the Lunar New Year for the Vietnamese people. So the Americans had made a truce with the North Vietnamese, saying we're going to stop fighting. So the truce was working pretty good. But all of a sudden, the North Vietnamese tricked us. They said they wanted a ceasefire. They just went and reconstituted their forces. And the North Vietnamese, I'm sorry about the North Koreans, the North Vietnamese regular army didn't fight too much in the South. But what they sent divisions of North Vietnamese down into the South Vietnam. And the Americans, we really wasn't prepared for it. And so we lost a lot of soldiers during that time. In 1968, 10,000 American soldiers died in the battle during the Tet Offensive and the rest of 1968. So as things went along, you got kind of used to being there. You didn't like being there, but you got used to it. So then once we set up our fire bases, sometimes the rifle companies would go out. My brother-in-law, he's a big-time infantryman. He had a commander that didn't ever want to come out the field. So he's very lucky to have him with us today. So, but when we was in the rear, the heavy fighting would occur. Then they would bring the dead bodies back to the base camp. And here, my name is Alston, Sergeant Alston, get your detail. And we would have to go and pick them up out of the muds and put them in their body bags. It took me a long time before I could talk about this. But those things that we had to do and things that, we did with respect. We made sure that we took care of the bodies. We respected the dead. And most of them was our friends. So we had to take them to Thompson Air Force Base in Saigon so they could be sent back home to their families. So then all of a sudden we have what you call R&R. After you've been there for a while, they'll say, okay, you can take a vacation. You probably heard R&R before. Take a little break and go and rest for a week or so. So me and my friend, he was from London, England, and him and I became real good friends. I think it was one reason why we got to be friends. He wore glasses and I wore glasses. And we was the only two in the whole battalion that wore glasses. So me and him became very good friends because, hey, we wore glasses. So we went R&R together. So when we got back, the first sergeant was saying, hey, you guys better be glad you wasn't here. We done lost about 3 or 4 people while you guys was gone. And I said, wow, that's terrible. And we knew all of them. So then my friend, his name was Sergeant Minton, he say, First Sergeant, where's the mail? He say, well, the mail is in the field. They'll be back tomorrow. Once you guys just go get some rest, and all your buddies in the mail will be back tomorrow. But my friend said no. He was very loyal. He had a very close bond with his family, and he used to get a lot of mail. So he wanted his mail. So he asked me, well, come and go with me to the field and get my mail. And first sergeant said, well, if you want to go, the helicopter will be in about 5 o'clock. So the helicopter came in, and so we went out there, and 15 minutes, he was dead. And it was very devastating to me. If I was saying just why we didn't wait till they came in, why did we go out there? Why didn't I talk him out of it? So I went through all those emotions of that moment. And I've seen many people die, but he was a very, very good friend. And right to today, I still want to reach out to his family to say, hey, this was a good guy. And what I did, I went on the computer a couple of years ago, and I found his obituary back in Denver. His family's named this cathedral that they had his funeral, but I haven't yet to today been able to do that. So hopefully one day I would be able to reach out to his family and say, hey, I just want you to know that you had a great son or you had a great brother. But hopefully I can do that one of these days. So as we went right along, I came on back from Vietnam, all in one piece. I didn't get killed, I guess you say. Well, we know that. And so I came back, and during that time, it wasn't very popular to be a soldier. I went to Fort Carson, Colorado, and for us to go off post, we had to take our uniforms off. And if we lived off post, the only thing you could do was go straight from your post to your home. If you needed gas, you had to go change your uniform because people just did not like Vietnam veterans for whatever reason. And so, but now I'm real glad to be a part of the days of veterans and the faithful few. People now begin to take the flags out. They began to give their veterans the respect that they all deserve. Because if it wasn't for the faithful few, we would be speaking Japanese, Russian, German, or something. We wouldn't be speaking English. But because of the faithful few, we have the freedoms and the rights to do the things that we are able to as Americans. And if you ever go to some other country, third world country, you would love America. Yeah. You, with all its differences that we have in our country, you would love America. Because I've been to some places that, for instance, when I was in Berlin, I got there in August of 1989, and I went to East Germany. Berlin, West Germany is just like going to New York City. All the beautiful skylines and Mercedes-Benz Cadillacs. They have Mercedes for taxis. So I went over one time, and it was so depressing. I was planning on going back maybe later on, but before I could go back, one snowy Sunday morning, I heard all this noise outside of my window, and they had what we call trolleys. They were little wood cars. They made their cars out of wood. And smoke, you had to put on a gas mask just about to be able to endure the smoke and the noise that they made. And all of a sudden, it came on the TV that the Berlin Wall had fallen. And that was really, really probably the most highlight. I really enjoyed that probably more than anything I did in the Army was to be a part of that history. They came with just clothes on their back, and I was in charge of making sure that they had a place to live, transportation, food, and clothing. And that became one of my favorite tours. And hopefully that me and my wife this summer can go back and visit. And that is pretty much part of my close to 26 years, 25 years and 8 months. All the places that I went, I never will forget going to those places. I met the friends. I have friends that I still met years and years ago. We still get Christmas cards from them. And I just really enjoyed being a soldier. And once I got out, I retired after 25 years and a half. And I decided to start my own business. My wife worked at IBM, and she had some connections, and I got a job just like I was hoping I was going to get me a couple of months off. But she had the hookup. She wanted me to go to work real quick. So I got a job at IBM. I worked there about 3-4 months, and I said, honey, this ain't me. She said, what you mean? I said, this is not me. I got to be out among people. I got to be moving around. So I went to some orientations when I got ready to get out of the service. And I remember this company. It was called Roberts Express, and it was up in Akron, Ohio. And I remembered a little bit. So I just looked them up and called them, and they said, well, all you need to do is get on an airplane and come to Akron, and we'll tell you what we do. So I went to Akron, Ohio, and before I knew it, I went out and had to bought this big, pretty, fancy truck, and I put a husband and wife team in that, and then I bought me a truck myself and traveled all over the United States. I've been over the world. Then I got a chance to travel the world. So I'm not going to bore you about much longer. And so what happened is I got a phone call after 5 years of traveling all over the United States. I was getting kind of tired of that. I had an opportunity to go work at Fort Bragg, where I spent 13 years my career there, and I knew the base just like the back of my hand. So I went to a meeting in Atlanta, and I was around Christmas time. So the gentleman said, well, look, you're the guy we're looking for. I said, I haven't even had a chance to talk. He said, you the guy. I said, okay, well, look here, I'll see you guys at first of the year. He said, oh, no, you can't do that. We need you here a week from today. I say, a week from today? I said, I'll see what I can do. He said, you need to bring 5 trucks with you. 5 trucks. I already had 2 trucks. So before the week was out, I had 3 brand new big trucks sitting in front of my house. And so we had to take them out to the warehouse that I had. And I did that for around about 15 years. And then all of a sudden, I started breaking down a little bit. So I said, well, let me go get my benefits from the VA. It's time for me to collect. So I put in for my disability. And my wife said, well, you got a letter from the VA today. I said, did you open it? What did it say? Oh, no, I didn't open it. I left it for you to open. Open this letter, a big old brown envelope. Denied, denied, denied. I said, Jesus Christ, I will get depressed for 3 or 4 months. But my wife, I said, look, they don't have to give me a penny. I'm not doing this anymore. She said, well, that's what they want you to do. So then I learned how to do VA claims and myself. I got on the computer and I studied all the regulations. I was used to that by being in the military. So then I got good at it. And then all of a sudden I started getting these letters saying, you have been compensated so and so and so. And I said, wow, I like that. And then I kept on until I got to be a pro at it. So after I was comfortable with my disabilities and the compensation I was receiving, I decided to retire. And then after I retired, I was a little saying, well, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? So I talked to the good Lord. And I said, what should I do for the rest of my life? And he said, go help those that went through what you went through. So me and my wife, we sat at our kitchen table, and we founded and formed Triangle Veteran Wellness Outreach Center that is up and running, and we're located at 406 Risby Avenue, downtown Durham. And I just seen my very, very, very special friend. You didn't think I saw you, did you, Dr. Terry? Thank you for coming. That is my very, very good friend. We have been working together for the last 3 or 4 years, and she took out her busy schedule just to come and support her friend. And thank you so very much, Dr. Terry. So that is how Triangle Veteran Wellness got started, and I enjoyed doing it. And whenever someone walking into our office, we want them to feel like they're important. Some people are getting paid to help veterans, but sometimes they treat veterans like they're second-class citizens, believe it or not. And so whenever someone comes to my office, we want to treat them with pride and respect. And it's Maya Angelou's saying is that it's not what you might do for someone or what you might say to someone, but how you make someone feel is what they won't forget. So we try our very best to put an impression on our veterans that they're important. And I have a very successful record of helping veterans, and that is what I enjoy doing. And even though we may have a few people that's not a part of the Faithful Few, but I thank you all for coming out this afternoon just to hear me talk. And if you want to be able to be a part of the Faithful Few in a way that you may not have served, but you can do it by making donations, come up with volunteers. We need volunteers. We need fundraising, all different types of things that we need to support our veterans. And this is, I'm going to close out with this one. This is very dear to my heart, and I may have should have waited until maybe I should have did it before Dr. Terry came in, and the reason why I say that, we lost last February a very, very good friend. Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to, his name was Paul Shubin. He was one of my clients, and he had been struggling for a long time trying to get his benefits. And I was able to take him to Roanoke Rapids on a Friday before he took his life. And I was able to get the people in the Winston-Salem regional office to agree to correct his paperwork. It was an error made, and he was happy as a lark. And so this was on a Friday. So on Monday, he goes to his computer, and he looks at his computer, and they say, oh, your claim will not be done until November 2017. And this was back in February. So he came to me and said, James, I can't do this. I can't do this. And I had been looking out for him. Dr. Terry, she really had been looking out for him, and we was trying to do everything we could to help him. But it was the fact that he was feeling so depressed. He had a lot of pressure on him, suffering from PTSD, And we have a lot of veterans. And I know that the Duke Research Institute is working on things to try to figure out how they can help veterans with PTSD. We have a lot of military sexual trauma clients that come to me as well. They're men and women. So I thought that I had satisfied his needs, and at the moment, I thought everything was good. So he said he wanted to go to the regional office in Winston-Salem to find out why he would have to wait till November. I'm telling him, Paul, you don't have to wait till November. That's just a computer-generated process. So I asked him, he said, well, I'm going to Winston-Salem. I said, well, do you need any gas money? He said, no, I don't need any gas money. And he had his dog. Dr. Cherry trained that dog. I met the dog many a times, and he was laying on the floor. Then he got up, and then my friend was working at the other end of the room, and he just started crying. He was just, I said, we didn't realize what was going on with his dog. His dog sensed his depression. That's what he was trained for, and we didn't realize the dog was really trying to tell us something as well. So he left. And I didn't see him anymore. And I got a call from Dr. Terry on Friday morning, and she said, have you seen Paul? I said, he was in my office on Wednesday. I haven't seen him. She said, well, he's missing. And about a week later, he was missing on Wednesday. The next Tuesday, his body was found where he had committed suicide. And I know for a fact, standing here today, if we had had the resources that we could have really reached out to him to be able to help him, been able to help him through those tough times, he would still be with us today. He was the nicest, gentle, he's a big guy, but he was just as gentle as he could be. And we still miss him to today. So if you want to help in any way that you like, you can do volunteers, do donations. You can go to our website. I have some flyers that I will pass out after this is over. And that is something that we don't want to see happen again. So I do thank you, Ms. Jenny, for inviting me. Thank you for the nice introduction, Debbie. And I thank everyone that's in this room. Godspeed, and thank you for coming out. And I hope I didn't bore you too long. Thank you very much.
Someone has a question for you?
Questions?
You want to take questions?
Oh, yes,
Maybe
ma'am.
some-
Oh, yes, ma'am.
You want to get out?
Okay, if there's any questions, I got to say, believe it or not, I got to go to another little event not too long from here, but I come here for you guys. Is there any question? Yes, ma'am, Dr. Terry, my friend.
I don't have a question. I just want to just let everybody know just how hard Mr. Alston has worked to develop this nonprofit that he has. He has worked tirelessly, and he's done such a beautiful job and helped so many veterans with their benefits. I mean, it's just a struggle for them to be denied over and over again, especially the Vietnam veterans have the highest suicide rate of all the veterans, right, Mr. Alston? The Vietnam veterans?
Say again?
The Vietnam veterans have the highest suicide rate?
They have the highest suicide rate.
Right.
Reason being, we didn't come back to parades. We didn't come back to fanfare. We came back as baby killers, some call us. And we didn't have any transitional period where we went through transitional training to help us get back into normal society. We was just thrust out there on our own, and that is the reason why that is still a problem today, believe it or not. But it's gotten a lot better, and with people's reaching out, making donations, and trying to help us any way we can, hopefully we can make them feel more at home. Yes, ma'am.
The number one reason for that suicide is denial of claims. And so Mr. Alston is helping these veterans to not have to go through that. Being homeless, when they have money there they should have gotten years ago, they should have given it to them, you know, but they just keep denying, and then finally you just can't take it any longer. And the young man that Mr. Alston was talking about was already homeless. He was not going back there again. He had already done that. He was done. He wasn't even gonna wait a few more months. he was just done. And Mr. Alston is helping to prevent, things like this from happening. So please support him and all his efforts and hard work that he's trying to do to help his fellow veterans. He's doing a fabulous job.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cherry.
A lot of our employees actually met Paul. You brought him here
Oh, they did?
for one of the visits with.
Yes, Paul was here.
So,
Yeah.
Okay, so, this is real. And when you get it, have it to happen personally, face to face, you realize how important it is for us to try to do everything that we can for the ones that went out and put their lives on the line so we can have the freedom that we have today. Is there any more questions? Yes, ma'am.
It's not a question, it's more commentary. I think, first of all, thank you very much for your service, and all of you who've served. And I will not make it through this without crying, I can tell you. But I think if you haven't seen the Ken Burns documentary on the Vietnam War, I think that is the greatest eye-opener there could ever be, to see what you veterans lived through, those of you who did live through it, and then the treatment that you received when you came back. A lot of what you were saying about how you had to take your uniform off, or, was very well displayed there within that documentary. And I think the treatment you received when you returned was a shame on this country. But I will also say there was one lady, if you haven't seen the documentary, there was one lady who was part of those anti-war demonstrations and who was part of this disrespect that was shown to the veterans. And the one thing she said was, she says, if I could go back, she said, I would take it all back. I would never, ever have done that. And I guess I grew up, I was born in '56, so I grew up I was like 10, 12 when you were in Vietnam, so I guess I wasn't as aware of, the Tet Offensive and such I heard about, but I wasn't as keenly aware, and also growing up in a small town, I didn't see all the protests and such, but I think that documentary is one that should be shared and kept, and shared with everyone, even the much younger generation, so that they can be aware of what you sacrificed, and not just in the Vietnam War, but other wars as well. And hopefully that can somehow help them gain respect for you and for your family members and for others who are willing to give their lives just to make sure that we are free. And I thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Is there any more questions? Well, if not, I am so very happy that I came, Gina, and you guys have made my day. And I want to thank everybody that took time out from the busy schedule to come and recognize and support those that have given their lives and those that have given their time to go and fight and serve our country. Thank you so much, and God bless America.